Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are well this Friday, September 8th, 2023. Today we meet to talk about Link, Chainlink's crypto. As usual, we will dissect this video into two parts. A fundamental part, we will come back to what Link is, to its news, to the real purpose of Chainlink and what is behind it. And then we will go to the graphs to project short, medium, long-term on purchase prices, sales prices. And yes, today we are going to talk about what we now call stablecoin Link. It's a joke, but at the same time, we're really not far from it, and you'll understand why right away. So already you need to understand what Chainlink is. The goal of Chainlink is really to be an interfacing oracle between the blockchain and the rest. And even now we're going to go even further between each blockchain. This is really the original goal of Chainlink. It is to be an oracle, something that will allow the blockchain to interface with the outside world. This is the goal. The blockchain itself has access to information within itself, within its internal data set, but cannot fetch external data. That is to say, for example, if I need to have information related to the economy, related to temperature, related to something that is outside of my data cycle within my blockchain, I can't. And precisely the principle of chaining is to offer an infrastructure through smart contracts, which securely allow access outside the blockchain. This is truly the strength of the oracle. So on that's what they've really been built on for almost 4 years, but they've started to change already a year ago, really moving towards this notion of interfacing no longer within the blockchain outward, but blockchains themselves, right? The interfacing between blockchains and the interfacing of the blockchain world, the Web3 world and the Web2 world. It's really exactly that. It's really this representation in which we have the information, the oracle, therefore Chainlink, and then the smart contracts which are in the blockchains. And to go further, they are characterized in this way now with a representation. We will go down a little further. You will see hop here. We will see precisely the CCIP, the new standard which allows interface between different blockchains. We could say that it is an overlay to blockchains to communicate with each other. And next to it, we have Chainlink with the possibility of interfacing with institutions. And to go even further, they have been talking to Swift for some time already. And we have had news that it works very well, in which we have Swift, which interfaces with precisely Link to have access to the different blockchains and precisely Swift takes care of the interfacing with the different banks. So we are in a position, Link, which is in the process of establishing itself as a major player in the evolution that we can have in terms of a form of general interoperability between the Web3, therefore within of Web3, and next to it Web2. So we really have this notion of interface. And what is interesting to see is that we have several typologies in interoperability. I have a block, what we call a layer 0. So there is a fundamental block in which the other blockchains are in fact grafted on top by developing using precisely the layer development kit 0 to build, which is the case with Polkadot and Cosmos SDK. It's really this principle in which we have the 0 layer and we allow construction. We also see this through the subnets and supernets on AVAX and Polygon. And next to it, we find ourselves on another typology, which is more than bringing oracles, and in particular Chainlink, and especially Chainlink, I should rather say, in which we have the blockchains which are separated and in which we will have a form of interfacing which will be carried out with a protocol on top which will allow us to communicate. So here we will have Chainlink. So here the implementation of the oracle which will allow the interconnection between the different blockchains. And it's much more secure than a bridge, because the problem with bridge is that it has walking security vulnerabilities. And this is a form of interoperability which could be interesting and which will be to be continued. This is really one of the strengths for me of Chainlink, and which allows us to have another way of approaching interoperability within the different blockchains. Next to Chainlink, it's lots of other things. It's automation. That is to say, we can use Chainlink to automate smart contracts, program them and pre-program smart contracts, which are in different blockchains. So we can create a relatively complex infrastructure, and it's not for nothing that the biggest ones, we forget that because it's clearer, but AAVE and Synthetics who use it. And anyway, if you don't want to have any problems and you build behind a protocol, for example, we will generally recommend that you use Chainlink, because that's what is the most stable, and it is what is the least abused because there are hacks which are specialized in precisely the manipulation of oracles to lead to incongruous situations for precisely hacking. Alongside, in terms of supply, we have a link which is around a max supply, diluted to 7 billion, and we are in a dilution to 53%. So overall, we will slowly move towards 100%. It will take time. We had the whole notion of stacking, which was put in place at the level of Link. We have lots of things that are moving forward. We have an ecosystem that is in full development, and that is important because we are in a bear market phase in which generally we have construction, and we feel this construction phase enormously in all these effervescences that we see at the level of Link, which, let's remember, specializes in interconnection. And it's really their job. And this is, I think, where they are really going to head. We are now going to attack the technical part, in which you will see why we rightly call it CHAINLINK, the stablecoin, because when we look at this area here and we crush it a little, we have the impression of really being in a stablecoin already, since for a while we have been in a range since May 2022 that has lasted for a very long time. Well, that doesn't prevent us from looking at the structure itself. We have a form of effective accumulation with a first impulse, a retracement, a reaccumulation in a form of lateralization, acceleration, rotes. And then we really have the start, which takes place in 2020, with necessarily the acceleration linked to the advent of decentralized finance and a real need to have an oracle, and the advent of lean, in which we had the last big acceleration, which lasted a really long time until May 2021. And then we had a retracement, which took place in 3 stages, classics, with the establishment of a distribution. Weekend with a buy-in climax, automatic rally, secondary test, and we sink. We make a sign of weakness. We stop the upward trend. We retrace. We retest the upper part. We see that we does not succeed. So we sink, we break bearish, and we enter the sign of weakness, which is the long-term accumulation zone to prepare the uptrust. Therefore, a new, very aggressive upward acceleration, which would take time. Suddenly, the buying climax, which would make a new 88th. Well, clearly we see that the sign of weakness is really very specific at the level of Link. We have something which is really very structured, where we really see this channel which is formed here, which is a rather descending channel, but which is really a lateralization zone in which we have the tops, which are lower and lower always, and the lots, which are lower and lower too, okay? With a selling climax that took place here, a secondary test that took place here, and there we have an STB taking liquidity from the lower part. We did not have a bullish break, so I think that we're really going to go and do a spring and therefore go and take this lot. For me, we are in a long-term accumulation zone if we are interested in this project, taking into account that we will have the release of links and that we have inflation, finally dilution, and therefore it would be interesting to stack these links, obviously. And then what will also be interesting is that if we ever look for a nice entrance, for me, I really think that we will go and retest this area. This is the bullish acceleration zone before having the retest. So for me, it is a very big support zone, which was a very big resistance zone, which led to the bull run acceleration. So here we really have a very strong price call in which we still have a little bit of imbalance to find. So it would be logical to have a spring with potentially a wick, which sinks here, which will be swallowed retest. And there we will have a nice signal to go and retest at least the top of this range, or C break, do a retest. And so there we will have a second signal saying that potentially we are starting to rise again on Link. So that's my purchasing and structure perspectives at the Link level. In terms of sales areas, very interesting and very important to remember. Already Link, a lot of people are exposed to Link and are exposed with an average purchase price which is relatively high, which is going to be around between $10 and $20. Okay. So there we have a lot of people who are here, so we will certainly have that we will arrive in the $20, a sell-off which will be between 15 and 20. This is really the first target that I will set for myself. The second will be a retest of UST in the vicinity of 35 minus $40. Now, what will be interesting is to look ahead to Cheney's evolution, because currently we would be in the process of saying that we are in a wave 1 or 2 and a big wave 3, Eliottis, which would bring us on a target of $618 with a Link around $90. Now we will ask ourselves the question of the evolution of the market cap. We are currently on a market cap of 18, and we must always look at the diluted figure around 70 billion. On this, it implies that if we ever do an X10, that we end up with a Link for $63, therefore already broken the previous 88th. That is to say that we will be in a market diluted cap in the region of 70 billion. Which is rather coherent in an ecosystem in which Link has a utility, in which Link fully interfaces with all the blockchains, and we have an injection of liquidity and an increase in traffic, etc. So we have a valuation of Link which is rather logical in the region of $60. And then when we start to go up a little more and we potentially look for the $100 on Link, there we find ourselves in a valuation which is relatively significant, which is relatively consistent in the way in which it is diluted. And that's where you have to be careful. I think there will be a spread of your exposure to do. In any case, that's what I will do personally on Link, because Link is part of my portfolio. I continue to smooth my PMA, and I will smooth my PMA relatively low. Personally, I have a PMA which is around $5 at the level of Link, which I have already been hanging around for some time. So we are really me in my long-term reloading zone. So I will certainly reload strongly when we arrive in this golden zone, and I will spread out my exposure when we arrive in key areas. I hope you liked this video. If so, and you like this type of format, I'm sure you will love the one I made yesterday on crypto.com, You will see that there is plenty of information, and in particular, we see that it is not necessarily positive, and we must understand why. I'll link the video here, and we'll see you tomorrow for a new video.